After my Warlord's Ruin videos did well, I decided I was going to make videos on all the previous dungeons that have solo flawless emblems, since we don't plan on getting any major updates to subclasses for a good bit now. On top of no subclass updates, and since we have a super long season, this guide will at a minimum be up to date until the final shape drops. Anyways, today we're going to be going over how to successfully build your Titan to help you finally complete your Ghost of the Deep solo flawless and achieve that exclusive emblem. I'll be covering all characters in the coming weeks and will be live streaming on YouTube from at least 12 to 4 PM EST almost every day, just after I upload, so feel free to come by and ask whatever you want. If you want to get notifications for the stream, make sure you subscribe and tap the notification bell and check it to all notifications. This will make sure you get my stream notifications and video notifications so you can come and join and ask me any questions you want. We can also go over clips if you're consistently having issues and are okay with being on stream. I'm super close to 500 subscribers and I want to thank all of you for blowing up my last video and skyrocketing my subscriber count. It means a ton to me, and if it didn't, I wouldn't be making these videos for you guys. Enough yapping, let's get into the guide. This dungeon is a good bit harder, putting it at the number 1 spot for the hardest solo flawless dungeon out of the rest on the Keegan dungeon ranking chart. So be ready to spend a good amount of time in here, averaging runs at a minimum of an hour. You can get your run under this time mark if you're experienced, but just expect your run to be around that. The two loadouts I'm going to be focusing on are Strand Titan with Synthosaps, or Solar Titan with mainly Synthosaps, but we'll swap the Pyrogale Gauntlets for the second encounter, Ekthar, and possibly Lorenly for survivability in the final encounter. The Strand Titan loadout is going to be great for the first 2 encounters, but will basically be unusable for the final encounter since the boss flies around and teleports all the time. Unless you're a real gamer, you're probably not going to run Strand and get good damage there. So if you end up using Strand for the first encounter, you should be ready to swap to Solar for the final boss fight. Solar, on the other hand, is usable for all encounters, but the only big negative is how you plan on doing damage for the second encounter. I'll go way more in detail about weapon combos and loadouts later since I have a lot to talk about, and I highly recommend you watch that part of the video since there's a ton of different options you can run, which will end up changing how long you end up spending in this dungeon. Before we jump into details, here's some artifact perks I'm going to recommend equipping. Use Solo Operative to get a straight 15% damage buff. Argent Ordnance to gain a 15% damage buff for rocket launchers, which will consume an armor charge when you fire a rocket. This has a cooldown of 4 seconds. Revitalizing Blast for a 15% weaken debuff for 6 seconds when you hit a boss with your solar ability. Kindling Trigger to apply Scorch to unscorched enemies with solar weapons when you're radiant. And Flint Striker, which will give us radiant on rapid solar weapon precision shots or final blows. Flint Striker isn't really needed since our hammer is going to end up giving us radiant based on the loadout I'm going to show you later. One big tip about Argent Ordnance is that this can conflict with your armor charges. If you don't have enough orbs around you, you'll end up running out of surges. Spoiler alert, but the only boss you might end up running rockets on is Ekthar, and his arena is pretty small, so you could probably get some extra orbs by walking around. Realistically, it's not something you need to worry about since you'll probably still secure a 4-phase. Now I'm going to give you some quick details for each encounter and possible loadout scenarios. The first encounter doesn't really matter since it just consists of ad clear and depositing buffs from the light bearers, so run whatever subclass you like the most. I personally ran Solar Titan just because I like Solar more, and you can panic nade healing if need be. Strand will be just as good, but your only healing is from Banner of War, so make sure you're willing to keep an eye on your timer. The only tips I have for this encounter is make sure that your Sparrow doesn't end up blowing you up, and make sure that you're killing the witches really fast, or just don't let them all hit you at once. If you don't, the witches will end up melting you. I'm not going to go over the traversals as this video is already going to be long enough as is, so please make sure you know how to get from one encounter to the next. The only thing I'm going to recommend is be ready to kill the Shriekers before and after the second encounter. Once again, you'll get melted if you don't, and any sort of long range weapon should work fine. Now after we did all that damn walking, we aren't going to die to something stupid like forgetting which symbols are where. First, go to the description or snipping tool this map I'm throwing up on screen, and throw this map up on your second monitor. If you don't have a monitor, print this bad boy out and slap it up on your wall. And if you don't have a printer, well, just pull it up on your phone. We'll be coming back to this during the phase example later on, but just make sure you don't die because you don't know where the symbols are. That'd be a terrible way to go, as drowning is bad and will get you killed, and getting the wrong symbol is also bad and will get you killed. First, we're going to talk about Strand. Your weapon loadout for Strand is going to be Tractor Cannon, any 1-2 punch shotgun, but preferably one with high handling, and whatever gun you want can fill the last slot, and I'm going to personally recommend something like an SMG. If you tend to mess up your damage phase, then you can try running double special and throw in a fusion rifle, but you could run into a situation where you run out of both special ammo in your shotgun and fusion rifle, which could end up pretty badly. You don't need the fusion rifle if you do your damage right, but the fusion will help you push past that quarter mark threshold. Some good 1-2 punch shotguns consist of Swordbreaker from Crota's, Wastelander, which is craftable from Dares, Ikella's Shotgun, which was a Season of the Seraph craftable weapon or a Seraph Shield craftable weapon, Xenoclass 4, and so forth. You're looking for high handling shotguns for the most part, but 3 out of 4 of these are craftable, so I think it's worth naming them. Some good fusion rifles consist of Scatter Signal with Overflow and Controlled Burst, Cartesian Coordinate with Grave Robber, Slide Shot, Lead from Gold, and Vorpal, and finally, Riptide with Autoloading, Chillclip, or Vorpal. Scatter Signal is craftable as it came with this season, and is very good, but I prefer Cartesian Coordinate since I end up running Swordbreaker and that gun is in the first slot. The fusion rifle doesn't matter as much, just make sure you prioritize the 1-2 punch shotgun over it. Strand will be a good bit safer for damage as your loadout can't kill you. This will make killing the knights, ogres, and light bearers easy, but with Strand, you need to make sure your banner of war is always up or you'll end up dying. Ekthar has a pretty long damage phase, and if you aren't going to the fight with a full 30-second timer, you're going to have a pretty high chance of dying unless you're actively going out of your way mid-DPS to keep the timer up. Almost all of your damage is coming straight from proccing 1-2 punch, comboed with your melee, and your super. So once you've exhausted those, you're basically done with damage. If you didn't reach the mark, to keep damage going after you ran out of super and melees, swap to your other gun and try to gain a little bit of distance on him to try to not waste that extra time for damage. Just make sure you prioritize your banner of war and staying alive over doing DPS, or you're going to have to do this all over again. Don't worry if you miss some damage, since you can probably make it up later to get a 4 phase, or worst comes to worst, you get a 5 phase. The basic DPS rotation for Strand will be in the phase example later on in the video, so if you want to run Strand, feel free to skip there now as I'm about to talk about Solar. For Solar, the weapons you're going to want to run are Dragon's Breath, preferably a Solar Fusion Rifle, and the last slot is up to you. I just threw on Fatebringer because I like it. The reason I say preferably a solar weapon is because you can use the Solar Surges to your advantage and get Dragon's Breath and your Fusion Rifle buffed. You could also run Legend of Acreus, which dishes out a ton of damage, but that requires buying it from the exotic kiosk, so say bye-bye to your spoils and grinding out the exotic catalyst. Some good solar fusion rifles consist of Cartesian Coordinate with Grave Robber, Slide Shot, Lead from Gold, and Vorpal, and the Eremite with Envy's Assassin and Controlled Burst. The Eremite is craftable since it came with last season, the Season of the Witch. If you don't have a good solar fusion, don't worry and just throw on another fusion rifle like Scatter Signal, Overfill, and Controlled Burst, or Riptide, auto-loading, and then Chill Clip or Vorpal. Solar will make keeping your buffs to stay alive way easier, but your loadout is explosive, which could end up killing you. Just before you get to damage phase and you're about to deposit the last buff, you're going to swap the Pyrogale gauntlets. Remember, you need Burning Maul on for Pyrogale to work, so you can dish out a ton of damage to Ekthar, which should instantly stagger him. On top of that, Dragon's Breath will also start to ignite him, which will also stagger him, meaning he should never get super close to you. Unlike Strand, a lot of your damage is going to come from your weapons, so try not to mess up your DPS rotation. Solar is going to be harder than Strand, but if you don't want to play and learn 2 different subclasses, then this is your best bet. Now on to the final encounter. Simama Al Whatever likes to fly around and is a huge pain in the ass to hit, so we're going to end up running long-range weapons. We're going to be running Hammer of Soul with Syntheseps for killing all the light bearers, and then Laurenly Splendor for boss damage so we don't end up dying to her beams. Laurenly isn't needed if you don't feel like swapping, but I very much recommend swapping to it just before the damage for that extra safety net. You also probably won't get to use your super mid-damage phase if you have most of your heavy ammo, so Syntheseps ends up becoming a waste. If you do end up needing your super, then Syntheseps will help get you some extra damage if you can proc Syntheseps by being surrounded. The weapon loadout is going to be Arbalist to instantly break her shield, a Solar Primary to keep our Restoration and Radiant buffs up when not using our hammer, and a Linear Fusion Rifle. You don't need a Solar Primary, but the synergy helps out sometimes. Really just make sure you have an automatic gun that has good ad clear. Anything with Incandescent and Volt Shot is fine. Some good Solar Primary weapons are Callous Mini Tool with Unrelenting and Incandescent, Zaoli's Bane with Explosive Payload and Incandescent, Drang with Wellspring Incandescent, Adhorative with Heal Clip and Incandescent, and Amit with whatever perk you want, as long as it has Incandescent. There's so many good solar guns that have Incandescent, so pick whatever one you want and stick with it. Some good linear fusion rifles are Briar's Contempt with Reconstruction Surrounded, Cataclysmic with 4 times the Charm Bait and Switch, Taipan 4FR with Triple Tap and Frenzy since we're solo, Storm Chaser with Auto-Loading Frenzy or Vorpal, and Reed's Regret with Auto-Loading or Triple Tap and Vorpal. Now let me quickly go over full loadouts for Strand and Solar, and we'll get straight into the phase examples. Alright, so for Solar Titan, real quick, just for both bosses, Ekthar and the final boss, none of my armor mods end up changing. So, just keep that in mind. When I'm swapping my armor around, I'm not going to really re-explain the armor mods. So, starting off with the subclass, Burning Maul is going to be used for the first boss, Ekthar, second encounter. And then Hammer of Soul is going to be used for the final encounter, the second boss, Simuma Nakru, or whatever. So, because you need Burning Maul for Pyrogale Gauntlets, and Hammer of Soul is useful for range. For the class ability, we're running Towering Barricade instead of Rally. Rally is a little too short. I like using this for actual cover, and I don't need the benefits from Rally Barricade like the reload speed, stability, range, whatever. Pick whatever jump you like, doesn't matter. Throwing Hammer is a must, and so is Healing Grenade. Healing Grenade is useful for Panic, and Hammer is how we're going to get a lot of our damage. A lot of our ad clear damage done. So, Roaring Flames is very, very useful. This will increase our solar ability damage by just getting killed to solar abilities or ignitions. This can stack up to 3 times, and this counts for your hammer, your sunspots, your super, all that kind of stuff. Soul Invictus will allow us to make sunspots on solar ability final blows, hammer of soul impacts, and defeating scorched targets. Your abilities will regenerate faster when sitting in a sunspot, and your super will drain slower while in the sunspot. This doesn't matter for Pyrogale, Gauntlets, Burning Maul, because it's a one-time use. And Hammer of Soul does matter, though, so it's very useful. Ember of Torches, powered melee attacks make us radiant. We're doing that all the time, so it's a no-brainer. Ember of Ashes will apply more scorch stacks to targets. Very useful. Ember of Solace is optional. Radiant and Restoration will have a increased duration. This is only for the base Radiant and Restoration. So once you apply Radiant and Restoration, the duration will go from like 3 seconds to 6 seconds. Unless I'm wrong. So take that with a grain of salt. Ember of Empyrean. Your solar weapon and ability final blows will let you extend Restoration and Radiant. Very, very useful. This means you don't have to constantly be proccing Restoration and Radiant by using healing grenades and a hammer. Even though you're using your hammer all the time anyways. Doesn't matter. So just make sure when you're swapping between bosses, you're swapping these supers around. Very important. Make sure you don't forget that. Unless you want to do it mid-encounter and lose all your abilities. For weapons, I'm running, for Ekthar, I'm running Fatebringer. This is not needed. This is just the weapon I like to use. This is my favorite hand cannon. I love it. I've been using it forever. I'm running Cartesian Coordinate because it's solar, matches really well with Dragon's Breath, and it's a fusion rifle, and I have a pretty good roll on it. So, Grave Robber is nice because I'm getting melee kills, and it just instantly reloads my gun, and the Vorpal is good for damage. Dragon's Breath, if you have the Catalyst, you basically are proccing your auto reload faster, and you're making fire sprites, so that's cool. Fire sprites aren't very useful unless you're running mods with it, fragments with it. I would not recommend running Ember of Mercy, just because there's a bug right now where, under certain circumstances, I think, or just in general, when proccing Restoration while you have a timer higher than the base, so 3 or 6 seconds, depending if you're running the increased duration one, it'll actually just reset it down to the base duration. So if you have 12 seconds and then you throw a healing grenade and walk into it, it's going to reset it to 3. Why? I don't know. Bungie said they know about it, though, and they're trying to fix it. The weapons I run for the the final encounter is Cataclysmic because it's a linear fusion rifle, has range, is really good in general. Running Callous Mini Tool because it's solar, matches well with my Siphon, I'll explain in a second. And then Arbalist is a must-have. Priority is Arbalist, linear, whatever you want can go here. Arbalist, Catalyst is really nice too, definitely don't need it, very nice though. Any linear, that's good, works here. I just have Cataclysmic and Briar's Contempt here. Briar's Contempt, Surrounded is very, very good. It's also kind of harder to proc here because you're trying to keep yourself alive. So just keep that in mind. And Enhanced Surrounded gives you an extra 5% damage. Very good, very useful. For mods, I've got 2 heavy ammo finders and 1 harmonic siphon. I just slotted this in here because orb generation off of heavy-handed is harder than you think. There's a cooldown for heavy-handed and it's pretty long. Unless you're running more than one. So, very, very highly recommend running a siphon here. And then heavy ammo mod finders because I don't need anything else here. And I want my heavy ammo. So that's that. For gauntlets, I'm running Focusing Strike. This will help me get my shield back. It's not necessarily needed. You could do the one that helps you get your grenade back faster. This is just what I have on. Harmonic Dexterity. This is because I'm on solar. It's the harmonic will give me solar weapon speed. So I'm just getting my solar weapons will swap faster. Sorry. They will swap faster. Very, very nice. More damage. More DPS. Heavy-handed. This is what I was talking about earlier. This will give us orbs on powered melee final blows. The cooldown is pretty high. I think at 10 seconds. So you can swap out Focusing Strike for another heavy-handed if you want. It's pretty useful. So I'd very highly recommend running 2 heavy-handeds or 1. Very high. You need to run 1, basically. I'm not going to say need, but you should run 1 at least. 2 is very, very good as well. I would recommend that. For chest, we're running melee damage resistance because we're very, very close range. For the final boss, you can swap the sniper resistance because you're going to be very, very far away when doing damage. Make sure you throw on arc resistance and harmonic resistance just because it could fit in here. Solar, there's not a lot of solar, or there is a good amount of solar damage, but not as much as arc. The final boss has a lot of arc damage. The high boomers do arc damage. I think the ogre beams do damage as well, so arc damage. So just make sure you match the resistances with what's actually going on. For legs, you're going to be running surges. I'm running 2 surges. 3 is a little excessive. I'd rather have a scavenger mod just because of ease of use. And then for the mark, I'm running at least 2 time dilations. 18-second armor charge per armor charge. So 18 plus 18 plus 18. I'm not going to do the math on that. You can do it if you want. And then for the artifact, apparently I didn't have Solar Operative on at all during all of my recording, so could have been faster. I'm including it now. Sorry. That means you could probably get it done faster than me. So, Argent Ordnance, this can co-inflict with your surges. Argent Ordnance has a cooldown of 4 seconds, which I explained earlier. But Argent Ordnance, when you're in longer damage phases, you're going to end up losing your surges almost guaranteed. Just because every 4 seconds you're using an armor charge if you're swapping to your rocket, and I think the auto reload is about 4 seconds. So, if you're not picking up orbs consistently during a damage phase, you can choose to swap off Argent Ordnance if you think you're using your fusion rifle enough to out-damage a rocket. I personally don't think it matters a ton. I'm just going to keep Argent Ordnance on. I haven't done the testing with and without it, just because I think it's a little too tedious, and I don't think it really matters at the end of the day. You're still probably going to 4-phase this boss. Maybe you could 3-phase it if you're really optimized. This is one way I recommend. And then minimum you should 5-phase the second boss and the final boss, whatever. So, the 2 optional perks, or the one very optional perk is Flint Striker. This is just in case you're not getting your Radiant at all, for some reason. That'd be very strange if you weren't. You can use Rapid Solar Weapon Precision Hits and Rapid Solar Weapon Final Blows to get it instead. You don't need Flint Striker. If for some reason you're not getting Radiant off of your melee, I don't know what's wrong with you. Sorry. Kindling Trigger. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch to unscorched combatants. This is actually more useful than you'd think. You're adding more Scorch overall because you don't need to use any abilities or anything that actually applies Scorch like Incandescent. I'm not sure if using an Incandescent weapon on an unscorched combatant with this perk like doubles it or like stacks them at the same time, or if this actually makes it useless. So, you can use it if you want. These aren't useful. Really, the only thing you need is Solar Operative, and then Argent Ordnance. I'm still going to recommend using it. And then for stats, make sure you have 100 Resilience, and the 30% DR is extremely good. Extremely good. And then I'm building into Discipline. I want my grenade faster. Remaining of my stats went into Recovery. For my other armor pieces, like I said at the beginning, they're basically the same. I'm running the heavy-handed mods and solar dexterity mods when I'm swapping between them. Same thing, Laurenly, Solar Siphon, heavy ammo mods. Even though with Laurenly I'm not really killing ads, I just wanted to keep them the same. No reason to swap around. Oh, and then I have my reserve just plate, just for rallying with, and if I'm safe and I feel like picking up extra ammo when I'm maxed out, I can swap to it, run out there, run back, swap back. So yeah, make sure you're running boss spec on your damage weapons, obviously. And make sure you're at least running resistance mods, because that's very important. Make sure you're running surges, make sure you've got some time dilation, and make sure you're generating orbs. Alright, so now we're on to Strand Titan. For Strand Titan, we're also going to be running Synthoceps, and then I'm running Swordbreaker because that's super high handling, Callous Mini Tool just because I like this gun a lot, very good, Incandescent's very good, and then Tractor Cannon, because Tractor Cannon will give us a very big debuff. I forgot the percentage, don't judge me please. For the actual super, this is the only one you can run, Blade Fury. Tyrant Barricade again, and whatever jump you like. Frenzy Blade is also the only thing you can run, and then Grapple. Grapple is going to be useful just to get off the extra 1-2 punch melee. So that'll actually end up being 4 melees in total before we go into our super. And remember, this is only for the second boss, so I'm not building any of this around the third boss, because realistically you're not doing damage to Strand on the third boss. Aspects are running into the fray. Destroying a Tangle or casting your super will grant Woven Mail for nearby allies. While you have Woven Mail, your melee regeneration rate is increased. So you're picking up Tangles, you're throwing them at enemies and getting Woven Mail back. You don't need to throw them at enemies, but one of my fragments, I'll explain in a second, you're going to get your melee back even faster. So this is important for getting Woven Mail. And then Banner of War, this gives us a ton of extra melee damage basically, and you're getting your healing from this. This is extremely important. You need to put this on. This is the only way you're getting healing, so put this on. Starting with our fragments, using your Thread of Ascent, when you use your grenade, it will reload your weapon and grant you some extra handling and airborne effectiveness. Airborne effectiveness doesn't matter, who cares, but the handling is nice. You also get 10 mobility, so cool. Even though we're Titans, it doesn't really matter. Thread of Warding, when you pick up an Orb of Power, this will give you Woven Mail. Very, very, very useful if you don't have Tangles. Thread of Fury, damaging targets with the Tangle versus melee energy, so that's what I was just talking about. Mixes very well with Into the Fray. You're going to be getting your melee regeneration back pretty fast. And then Thread of Transmutation, when you have Woven Mail, Weapon Final Blows create a Tangle. Notice how it doesn't give you an element for the weapon, it's literally just Weapon Final Blows. Therefore, if you're not using your melee, you'll still be ending up making Tangles, which is very, very nice. Some of these you can swap in and out if you want, like maybe Thread of Ascent. I never really crushed that hard on using my grapple to reload, so whatever. But I think that's like really the only one I'd swap out. Maybe throw to transmutation as well. I already went over the guns. Make sure you're running boss spec or major spec, up to you, and then minor spec for the Callus mini tool, whatever you want to use. That doesn't matter that much. But for armor, we're going to be running hands-on for super energy. You shouldn't really ever run out of heavy ammo because you're not using your tractor cannon that much, so you don't really need it. And then you're not using your primary primary weapon that much either, so you don't really need siphon mods. So you could run special ammo finder. That's actually a pretty good option. I probably should have put these on instead. But special ammo finder is actually probably more useful than running 2 of these. So I'm going to recommend running a special ammo finder here. For Synthoceps, geez, I'm running 2 heavy-handed mods just because I want to gain as many orbs as I can, because later on orb pickup will give us some of our melee back. Impact induction, causing damage to your melee, will give you your grenade, parts of your grenade back. That's what we're running there. If I was to swap anything out, I wouldn't, so sorry. For the chestplate, the resistances we're going to be running is obviously melee damage resistant. This is a given. You are literally melee distance all the time. Throw that on. Arc resistance again, just because a lot of arc damage. You got the Boomer Knights. Ekthar is a big Boomer Knight. You got the witch bitch at the end, Samuma. She's shooting you with a beam. That's all arc. And then, not that that matters for Strand, whatever. And then I'm running solar resistance just because I have some room for it. And solar resistance is useful here. There's some solar damage, so. For the legs, I'm not running any surges. No surges are needed here unless you're using a fusion rifle. If you decide to run double special, which is useful, it can be useful if you're making enough special, but I'm personally not going to fully recommend it. It still has its purpose. It's still good. You can run surges if you want. I'm not going to though. I'm running 2 invigoration mods and then recuperation. I want my melee back faster. I'm making a bunch of orbs off of heavy-handed, and then recuperation. You just do a little bit of extra health. It's nice to have. You could. Nope, you can't do it. I lied. Onto the mark. I'm running 2 more 2 outreaches here just because I want to get my melee back even faster. You could throw on proximity ward if you're doing finishers a good bit. You got special ammo finisher here too, because we're not using surges, remember? We're not using surges, so you could use special ammo finisher. And then I'm running powerful attraction, just so whenever I use my class ability, you can, you'll collect the nearby orbs. Realistically, I didn't need anything from here. This is just something I threw together really quick. You don't necessarily need anything on your mark. You would still be pretty much fine. And then your stats, you want to make sure you have 100 resilience. Always have 100 resilience. 30% DR is insanely good. And then for strength, you want to try to max it out. I know earlier I was showing you that you're going to be getting your melee back pretty fast, but even then I still had some cases when I was doing damage testing where I didn't have all 3 of my melees for the final boss. So I'll go into detail later with Ekthar how to fix that and get around that so you don't actually have that happen. Oh, and then for artifacts, I already mentioned this, but Solar Operative, I totally didn't even have this on. So the only really useful things for Strand will be Solar Operative, Unraveling Orbs if you're using a Strand weapon, which my shotgun is Strand. Kind of useful, not necessary, because you're already doing so much damage with 1-2 Punch and Synthoceps. And then, I think there was something else. Rattling Blast isn't useful at all because we're not Solar, and then, I think that's it. If you get Radiant somehow, then, you know. Actually, yeah. You use Callus Mini Tool to get some precision kills or whatever. Flint Striker, then you're Radiant, and then you'll do more damage when they're affected with Strand debuffs from Unraveling Orbs. So, or your melee. So you could try to mix these in together, but realistically, Solar Operative is the biggest thing here. Make sure you have Solar Operative on. And I think that's about it. If there's anything I forgot, I'll make sure to add it in right now. Alright, so here we are at the first encounter. I'm only going to show you one deposit because it's really not important to show the rest, and this encounter is pretty straightforward. I'm running Eager Edge here just because I like to get around faster. There's no real reason to use any other weapons here. I'm just running a 1-2 punch shotgun because this is what I have on. I didn't pick up my hammer there because I'm an idiot, so ignore that. But normally you'd have your hammer. All you're going to do is kill the ogre, follow the path. There's 2 wizards in the first one. I noticed that since I didn't have my hammer here, I ended up just using Burning Maul. So you're just gonna follow the path again. 2 wizards in the first little like icon, symbol descriptor, whatever. And then there's gonna be 4 in the next one, and then the light bearer. So I'm just gonna kill them all again. Honestly, I'm just gonna start skipping around because this shit is so boring. I don't want to bore you guys to death. I move on to the next area, and I start killing them all. Light bearer spawns in a second. There he is. I'm just gonna light him up a little bit. Boom, kill him. Looking for my symbol. Oh look, it's table. This is what I like to call it. It's table. There's table. Cool. Do my finisher. La 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 la. Kill the wizard. I do the what's it called? Deep sight. Do the deep sight, and then I deposit it. You might hear my friend in the background. Just a heads up. So I deposit it, and that's it. Wow, wasn't that crazy, right? Okay, so I do all of the traversal stuff. I'm not going to show you how to do that. You should know that. I'm going to be honest. And then we're going to, right when we get into the encounter, we're going to make sure we don't go near the ads, because if you get anywhere near it, it'll start. Make sure not to eager edge into them, because sword tracking is actually dog shit. Bungie, please fix sword tracking. Please. Please. I'm serious. Fix sword tracking. Before we start the encounter, I'm going to reserve rally. Here's my loadout, or this is not the right loadout, but it'll swap in a second. Okay, it's not going to swap in a second. I'm just going to start the damage. So, I start damage here, or I mean, I start going into the phase here. I rally with reserves, because I want to have the extra ammo. And we're just going to get it started. So, I'm getting Roaring Flames 3 here. You don't need to do it immediately. That's just what I'm doing. So you don't actually, it's not required. I'm going to go around and kill all 3 knights first. That's the most important thing. Really nothing here is going to end up killing you. Honestly, you won't really die in this encounter unless you let the witches, wizards, whatever. If you let them hit you too many times, that's where all the damage comes from, are the witches. It's like a repeating, it seems to be like a theme. Like the witches in like all of the fucking dungeons or anything just end up doing the most damage just because they have so many projectiles at once. So what I like to do is I like to look up. I'm going to rewind this a little bit. Once I see the symbols, so for me, these are my callouts. Squid Game is the left one, I know. You know, it's not the greatest callout. So that's Squid Game, hamburger, and then I'm going to turn around and miss my hammer. And then there's table. I saw table for a second, I know what that one looks like. Ooh, table. I always go to the right. In the map I'm going to show you right now. Hopefully he's up there. Thank you, Keegan. The map is going to have a circle where you're actually going to drop in every time. So I'm moving into the right. V is right here. This one's called V for me. Ice cream cone, pizza, whatever. I'm going to move right and grab Squid Game. And then I'm going to move on and grab the other ones. If you didn't know, you can sprint underwater. Crazy, I know, right? Jumping is very important in here. Makes you move way faster. That one's Impulse Grenade. That's hamburger right there. And then I'm running around and grab the other one. Right here, if you ever need to do this, right here where my mouse is, you can actually jump this gap. If you ever need to juke out Ekthar, snap his ankles, throw that shit into the abyss, you can jump right through there. Same thing with back here, right here. You see where the lights are, right next to the table. You can actually jump through that as well. So right here, what I'm doing is I'm waiting for Ekthar to get closer, because I want him to come around this side where I'm running right now, so then I can juke him out. So yeah, right here, you can actually jump through this gap completely fine. It's not hard to do, and you don't ever get like stuck on anything. So you can jump right through that. I don't do it here. I think this run I didn't know how to do it. Actually, I learned this while I was recording, so isn't that cool? So immediately, I'm going to go and try to get some ad kills. You don't need to push to the wizards immediately. I'm just going to go and whiff my melee. I think I whiff it like 3 times here. This is an extremely scuffed run, and I still end up doing fine, so you're going to see a lot of noob gameplay. So I go and start finishing the wizards. What I'm going to recommend is only finishing 2. Getting all your buffs and ammo ready if you've already done a phase, and then going and kill the 3rd one, because once you pick up Vestige of Light, you cannot refresh the timer. Even if grabbing another one, you cannot refresh the timer at all, and you need to deposit it, and if you deposit the last one, you start damage. So I'm already fine, so I'm just going to kill the last one. Where did she go? There she is. I'm going to kill the last one, grab the final buff, and then during the finisher, I swap to Pyrogale, because this for me is the safest area I can do it. For controller players, I know it's harder for you to swap, so what you could do is go... I'll wait for me to get out of inventory. These like back hallways right here where the ads actually spawn, throw up a barricade, swap real quick, and then you'll continue to do what I'm doing. So, that screen tear was me, by the way, not you guys. I lost my mouse. There it is. Just before I deposit, I'm going to make sure my armor charges are maxed out around 18 seconds. I'm going to make sure I have Roaring Flames 3 just by killing 3 enemies beforehand, because Bungie doesn't allow more than 4 things on the screen at once. Great design. Thank you, Bungie. So, boom. Look, that's perfect timing. I have literally max. You could get here a little faster if you jump off the stairs, right? But I'm going to throw my hammer, and then punch him, and then throw my hammer again. And, like, I lose a second of damage here or two, but it's really not a big deal. I promise. I thought I killed him there, but I didn't. So here I'm losing a bunch of damage, because I suck. I Pyrogale. I don't swap or anything. And then, because he staggered and kind of, like, stuck over here, this allows me to shoot my rockets off pretty easily. So I'm going to Dragon's Breath him, and then I'm going to run away a little bit. Dragon's Breath is going to consistently stagger him so he doesn't ever push up, and he'll kind of just stay far away. And with Radiant, you can shoot through the shield. I'm pretty sure. And if that is the case, make sure you don't end up, like, overlapping. Oh, yeah, no, look. Here it is. I didn't see this when I was looking at this earlier. So my rocket actually gets stuck here, but notice how my fusion rifle is going through it? That's because my fusion rifle doesn't have any intrinsic champion mods. So my rocket launcher does, which is bad because it won't use anti-barrier and it won't go through the shield. So I actually lose some damage here. I didn't notice this, but you'll probably do better. So this damage phase was actually awful, but I'll still show you that I end up 4-phasing this guy. So even with a bad damage phase, you can end up 4-phasing. I'm getting pretty low here, so I go to throw my hammer. I could have used my healing grenade, but I'm an idiot. I throw my hammer here, and because I know Dragon's Breath's like timer, like in my, I guess kind of like know it with the catalyst now. I know that as soon as I Dragon's Breath, I'm pretty safe. I can run up close and melee him, and then walk back, and I get the extra benefit of the weaken debuff. You don't need to do that ever. That's just what I like to do. I just know it. I'm going to show you one more phase, because that's pretty bad. That was a really shitty phase. I end up wiping here. Just a heads up, none of this is actually solo falls. I've already done this. And a lot of the time I'm just damage testing. So let me show you an actually good damage phase. So I stick him with my rocket. I Pyrogale, stick him with the rocket immediately, and then swap the Cartesian. He's going to be stuck there the entire time. Once again, I have the overload on. It just so happened that the shield broke beforehand. And I'm going to keep going. I'm looking for an ad right here to melee. I should have just meleeed instead of reloading instead. That's what I was thinking in my head to do. But I didn't do it like with my motor controls, my fucking hands and shit like that. So right there I do it again. I Dragon's Breath, hammer, and then swap. And look, I'm already past damage. This is all you need. You don't need to do any more than this. You're chilling. I still decided to do damage just because. And that's it. So I got to the first A in Savathûn. That's plenty of damage. You don't need any more than that. You don't need any more than the second A. The second A is about a quarter. I think if you use different HUD measurements, it might be a little off. So you can just get like a ruler or something and, you know, decide where it is for yourself. But that's it for the first boss, like the first actual boss. And then for Strand, I'm going to show Strand real quick. You can skip to the final boss right now if you want. For Strand, it's the same thing. We rally with reserves. I'm rallying with Strand reserves, or I think I am here. I might not actually be. I know one of my runs I did, so excuse me if that's not right. I'm just going to start off by getting some Banner of War. You don't need to kill all these enemies. I just want to. We're going to go straight to killing this knight. Once you punch, you land you land all of your pellets. You get a buff. You melee with your melee. Blah blah blah. So shotgun melee. And shotgun melee. So boom. I actually was having frame issues. My computer was I've been having this driver issue for a while, and I have tried so many things to try to fix it. I don't know what's wrong. So you might see some stutters or whatnot. You saw the symbols there: Squid Game, Hamburger, Circle. So we're dropping down, same path every time. This is just how I like to do it. If you do it a different way, that's cool. So there's V right on my left. Can't see it anymore. Here's Squid Game. I'm gonna get Squid Game, and then once again I'm underwater. If you didn't watch the solar part, if I'm underwater, I'm holding W and jumping all the time. It makes me go faster. If you also didn't watch the solar part, there's a jump through right here. There's a little crack in between the wall. You can jump through that if you need to ever. And then table right there. That's what I like to call table. The same thing. There's a top left jump through you can do. If you just want to, you know, if you want to do it faster. So I'm gonna start off by using my melee to make a tangle, because my tangle cooldown is definitely over by the time I get back out of water. This will give me a ton of my melee energy back because there's a ton of enemies right there. So look, that literally maxed out my entire bar because of that one aspect. Forgot what it's called. I mean, one fragment. And I'm getting woven mail. So I'm gonna start off. I'm just getting my banner of war up. I'm at ×2 right now. I'm gonna try to get it to ×3 at least. Boom, did that there. You don't need to do that. That's just what I'm doing immediately. And I'm just gonna immediately go and kill 2 of the wizards. I think I killed 3 in this, but I'd recommend killing 2, getting your banner of war up. Blah blah blah. It doesn't realistically matter that much. Just make sure that once you have that 3rd wizard's Lightbearer, Soul, Ghost, whatever, you have a minute and 10 seconds. That's it. And if you're carrying some already, you have whatever the timer is. It doesn't refresh it. So I'm gonna go around. Smack her. I finish here, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, so look, I almost dunk it here. This would have been pretty bad. Realistically, it wouldn't have been pretty bad, but I wasn't prepared for it. So I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to do that. Let me just pick up this and get my melee back. So now I have max melee. I'm going to try not to use my charged melee anymore. Going around just melee and getting my banner of war up. I have a minute and 10 seconds. Got plenty of time. So I'm at 29 here. Get a melee off, I'm at 30. Walking down. I see this Thrall. I remember he's going to walk down, so I'm going to chase him down once I deposit that. Melee him real quick, boom. Didn't need melee that, I don't know why. I'm going to shotgun in 1 melee the knight. You don't need to do this. It's up to you. I just wanted to do it like that. Makes it a little bit faster. I throw the woven mail at the boss just because ads aren't always guaranteed to be down here. So this helps you get a little bit of melee energy back. And then you're going to tractor cannon. Shotgun. Hopefully land all your pellets. And then melee. Melee. With 1-2 punch, you can get 2 fast melees off. So it's not just 1 melee. And then I'm a shotgun, melee again. And then you might be able to get off a grapple melee in between that time too. I don't know the actual timing for 1-2 punch, but I play it safe and just do a grapple melee 1-2 punch there. Boom, proc it. And then I tractor cannon and immediately pop my super. I only left click, I only use my light attack because the damage, I think the damage is straight up just better with just left clicking. So once I'm done, I already have my tractor cannon out, so I'm still spamming left click. I tractor cannon the boss again, and you get all of your melee back, which is very nice. You're gonna 1-2 punch shotgun, 1, 2. You're gonna, I missed it there, so like 132,000 damage. That's a big difference. I'm gonna do 1 more punch there. I don't have my grapple, so I can't get another one off. And then look, I'm already past the quarter mark. I'm chilling here. I end up four-facing this guy. I'm not gonna show the whole thing, but I'm plenty good here. But what do? I tractor cannon, whatever. I shotgun him a couple times because I have some spare ammo, and then I'm just gonna walk away. I notice my timer's at 10 seconds. I'm just going to walk away and I'm just going to shoot him with my Callus Mini tool. If you really want to play it safe, what you could do is you could actually drop down into the water and just chill down there until damage is over. So yeah, that's it. That's how you're going to run that. If you're low on special ammo, just make sure you're playing it way more safer and actually using your primary weapon or whatever else you're using. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the final boss. So final damage here. So now we're on Solar again. I'm using Arbalest, Callus, and Cataclysmic. I'm also running Hammer's Soul. Make sure to swap. This is big. If you don't swap, you're going to lose all of your abilities when you swap mid-battle. So I'm starting off damage here. I'm swapping to my reserves. And then she's going to... The deep side is always going to spawn right here every time for the first act. So what I do is I put a shield up, and I immediately... Every time Volrog, whatever the fuck his name is, every time he spawns, she will summon butterflies, moths, whatever you want to call them. So I'm shooting them. I think there's 6 in total. I'm shooting them all, taking my time, making sure, because that is a big painstake here. You will die if you let the moths hit you. I hit an Acolyte to get Roaring Flames. I get my Radiant, that's cool. Don't need the Radiant, not a big deal. And I get Restoration, the most important part. I'm going around the map and killing the 3 knights. There's one on the left, one on the, if you're looking at orcs, one on the left, one on the right, one on the top of his head. So I'm going around and killing all of them. At the same time, I'm noticing the triangle. I'm making sure I know where I actually have to go. So in this case, it's always the chest, because the chest is guaranteed. This is part of the encounter. It's always going to be the chest, and then it's his knee and his hand. So I notice that. I'm like, alright, cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start killing Volrog in the circle. While I'm at it, I'm making sure I kill some ads, I'm shooting the moss, all that kind of stuff. I still left that other knight is still alive. I'll end up killing him later, but right here I'm just burning him down. You can use as much Arbalest ammo as you want. You will never use Arbalest that much to where you'll run out of ammo. It's like pretty much impossible, I feel like. Walk into the circle, do that. Boom. I'm just gonna skip around because honestly, it's the same thing twice in a row. I doubt you guys want to see all that. If you are doing solo flawless, you know this encounter. So this should be his last one. Okay. So this is the last one. Now I have all 3 done. Boom. You don't need to keep note of the symbols because you don't know the symbol. You don't know which symbols are in which room. But what I am going to recommend is try not to get the chest. At least for Titan, I found it harder to sit at the chest because at the chest, Simu, whatever her name is, she can do a lot of damage to you, and it's harder to hit her head. So I would prefer to get as far away from her as possible. And if for some reason your linear doesn't have enough range to do damage anywhere in this room, then that might be a you issue. I'm sorry. So I'm jumping through this wall right here. Just a heads up, jumping into water carries momentum and gives you a little bit of a boost. Same thing with jumping out of the water. So here I'm just going to melee, I'm getting my Roaring Flames 3, whatever, just restacking it. The Titan is probably the most scary out of all of them, just because he throws suppressor grenades and boops you around and throws Sentinel shields to track you with mad aimbot. But if you play it really aggressive, I feel like he will never end up like really hurting you. Like right here, I'm standing on the edge. He could have sent me flying off the edge. But a big tip, if you've never solo flawless a dungeon before, or just if you didn't know this is a very nice tip for anything. When a boss is slamming or a mini boss is slamming, as soon as it's about to pop off, you can completely negate all the momentum that they're about to give to you just by meleeing. So I just punch here, I don't get to move at all, and then boom. Easy. So I noticed, I think it was table there. So I noticed that, and I'm going to jump down. Remember, the water carries momentum, so I just jumped. I went up, and then it hit the water as I was going down, so then I sunk super fast. Just a nice little, like, speedy tip, you know? Hit deep side, always hit the vestige, and then we're going to go into the hunter. I'm going to show all 3 of the bosses, or the mini-bosses, because some of the tips are actually important for this. Because they're all different. The Titan one is probably the hardest, and honestly, I think on Titan, the hunter is not that bad, and the wizard is pretty easy, just in general, so... Hunter, absolutely shit on, 200 pumped, he got boxed up. I checked the symbol there, and I'm just gonna keep going. Usually that hunter is like juking the shit out of me. Like, he is dodging and rolling whenever I throw my hammer. I know in this run he's doing that. So, he's actually a demon. Be careful that you don't miss your hammer. I'm looking at my glowing legs there. I'm gonna skip to the wizard now, so I'm doing the same thing here. Jumping into the wizard now, so I already dunked my buff there, so now I'm on the last one. So I dunked my buff there. I'm jumping out of the water, getting that little extra movement boost. Going around, I'm going to kill an ad real quick, my Roaring Flames is low, boom, now it's max again. I don't need the armor charge, I have 2 more, it's not a big deal. So I'm lighting her up a little bit, just applying some Scorch. It's not a big deal, I just wasn't close enough to where I wanted to like throw my hammer and then like accidentally miss it. So right here, I'm going to jump into the water. And in the water, you're completely safe. No bullets, no AoE can pass through the wall. So if you're in the water, you're good. So I'm gonna swap into Lorelei Splendor here. You don't need Synthoceps unless you use your super for damage, in which then you'll lose out on a little bit of damage. Realistically, it's not a big deal. You can 4-phase this boss. I 4-phase this boss with no solo operative. I didn't even realize I didn't have it on. I've said this 3 times already, just in case you didn't see that part of the video. So that was a mistake. I didn't mean to not have it on. I was doing some damage testing for someone. They left a comment saying something about Dragon's Breath and the ignitions and everything not working with surges. Did some testing and it looked like it did. I could be wrong. Flame me if I'm wrong, whatever. So what I'm doing here, I'm making sure my armor charges are maxed out, and I'm looking at my timer because I have 18 seconds left, so you can't take forever. Making sure I have some armor charges and Roaring Flames. As soon as you dunk this, you have to swap to Arbalest and break the shield. This is 500,000 damage right here. 500,000, 500, blah, 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 blah. That's a lot of damage. You don't want to waste your ammo on that. So boom, break that. Look, I'm low, but because I'm using Lorelei, I'm alive, right? It's cool. So I'm proccing bait and switch here. She teleports. You can still get 4 times a charm off of it if you're fast enough. And a lot of this is the aim game, especially if you're at the chest. The chest is probably the worst spot to be for Titan. I hate being at the chest. That was a dimer shot. You know, props to me for that. I ended up getting a little bit of weakened damage off here. I panic healing nade there because I didn't know I had my barricade. But look, Lorelei is saving me over and over again. So this damage phase actually was pretty bad in general towards the end. So like, look right here, I'm messing up pretty bad. I end up panic popping my super, but I'm pretty sure I still get her to about a quarter. And you can end up making this up. Just because I can, I'm going to show you an actually good phase. You don't have to watch the rest of this. If you, that's just the main gist of it. You don't have to watch this part. If you want to see a good damage phase, here it is, though. Let me skip through it real quick. Should be... Yeah, so I ended up making up for damage there. Also, ignore my friends. They're yapping in the background. I should have muted. Alright, so right here, this is a pretty good damage phase. The other one, the second damage phase is good too, but I'm going to show you this. Where is it? Come on, skip to it. Alright. So, damage phase should start any second now. Alright, so here's the same thing. Unfortunately, I'm at the chest again. The head, I think, is the best spot to be at, personally. Breaking it, doing it again. Teleports. I think I proc 4 times the charm here. Nope, I miss. So even if you're missing, you'll still end up getting good, like, you can still get good damage here. You can still 4 phase this boss, and remember, I don't even have solo operative on. Like, that's a big throw. That's a huge throw. I didn't even know. So, taking my time, hitting my shots. Arbalist is also pretty good, 55k. You know, it's not bad. It's a special weapon, not a heavy weapon, so I don't even have bait and switch here, and I'm still making up for way more damage than I did earlier. So you can totally 4 phase this. 5 phase minimum. I should expect everyone to 5 phase this. As long as you're not, you know, as long as you have a little bit of confidence in yourself, you should be able to 5 phase this. But yeah, dungeon, definitely the hardest out of all the solo flawless ones so far. Titan, I haven't done the other two, actually, in general. I did Titan when Bonk Hammer wasn't nerfed, so it's a little different. But I think Warlock will probably be the best for this, and then Hunter will probably be the best for damage, just because Warlock is just more user-friendly, easy, blah, blah, blah. I'll have those 2 videos out in the next coming weeks. But yeah, hopefully this helped you, and if it did, let me know. That's about it. And I'm going to roll the outro now. Finally, you completed Ghost of the Deep solo and flawlessly. Hopefully it wasn't too much of a pain in the ass, but let's be real, it probably was. This dungeon is by far the hardest, and it seriously is a big accomplishment if you ended up completing this, especially if you're new to the solo flawless game. I hope everything I went over was helpful and wasn't just me rambling on for ages. If there was something you think worked better for you, or if something I recommended was just terrible, please let me know in the comments below. I spent hours testing damage, writing scripts, and editing these videos to try to help you guys out the most I can. If I did help you out, consider leaving a like or a comment to let me know if I should continue doing these videos in this format. I plan on making a very similar video for Hunter and Warlock as soon as I push out my Tarkov video later this week, so stay tuned for that. Once again, congrats on the completion, and if you still need some help, feel free to stop on my YouTube stream, where I go over tips and tricks specific to how you play the game while I play Destiny or Tarkov. I stream from around noon to 4 EST almost every day playing Destiny, but mostly Tarkov right now since it just wiped. Just because I'm playing a different game doesn't mean I won't help you with Destiny. Don't feel like you're pestering me when you're asking about the dungeon. I really do want to help, so ask as many questions as you want. It doesn't bother me. Thanks for everything, and hopefully I'll see you around.